Jai
Yeah.
Jagannath. So we start chapter 6, which is Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation. Are there any questions from previous chapters?
No, I
No.
think we
Okay.
are fine.
So we start with verse number 1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Lord said, one who performs the ritual and social activities constituting his duties without depending on the results of the action is a real sannyasi and yogi, not one who does not kindle the sacred fire and does not engage in dutiful activities. Okay, so the sannyasa, Krishna was talking about the sannyasa yoga, uh, which is the same as karma yoga, meaning performing one's duties at the best of our abilities but without being attached to the result. What is the meaning of without depending on the results of the action? The meaning is that we need to stop the ahankara and mamatva. We need to become simply instruments of the great Viratrupa, the great body of God. Krishna will tell Arjuna, Nimitta Matram Bhava Savya Sachi. Arjuna, become just the instrument. So the instrument is doing its best work without expecting anything specific in return, because the job is the only important thing. It's like the hand that is cultivating the plants and harvesting the food and cooking and bringing the food from the plate to the mouth. It's not interested in the taste of the food, or in keeping the food after preparing. When the food is ready, the hand will not just keep it without giving to the mouth. And so the mouth will not just keep it without sending it down to the stomach. The stomach will not just keep it without sending the nourishment around to all the body. So the results of the action must be performed for the benefit of the universal community. A universal community is a form of God. There is this famous verse, Yagyartat Karmano Nyatra. The yagya, all the activities, the karma, all the duties must be performed in a spirit of sacrifice, in the sense of sacred action. Of course, we get our share. Tena Taktena Munjita. Like the Ishisa Upanishad said, Isavasyamidam Sarvam, Yat Kimcha Jagatat Jagat, Tena Taktena Munjita, Ma Gridakasha Svedhanam. Each person, each individual gets his particular share for his, good maintenance. So this is the meaning. The sannyasa is the renunciation to the selfishness, to the ahankara mamatva. It's not the renunciation to the action. This is very important. Many people are confused about the idea of sannyasa. And of course, Krishna knows it very well. Why Krishna is speaking about kindling the fire? Because in the Vedic tradition, the Vedic system, anyone who cooks the dvijas that prepare food take the kitchen fire from the yagya, from the homa, from the havana. So first of all, a dvija wakes up, gets up in the morning, is doing all the ritual duties, and after the homa is completed, he takes the fire from the homa and goes to start the fire in the kitchen. At that point, the cooking can start. So, if you are not, as a dvija, you're not performing the fire rituals in the morning, you're not supposed to cook. So that doesn't mean that you have to completely fast. There are many uncooked foods that are available, possible in this particular situation. And it's generally leftover food that is given to sannyasis when they go asking for bhiksha. And the yogi foods like fruits, milk, flowers, leaves, and sometimes some grains that have been pre-cooked and sold in the market. For example, the flat rice, the poha, how you call it? You know, the flattened rice is practically parboiled and then flattened with I don't know, whatever instrument. And then because it's almost cooked, practically cooked, you can just put some water or yogurt or milk or whatever, so you can eat it without cooking it. What is the name for this flat rice in your area?
Poha.
Poha. Yeah. Okay. That I also had that name. So in Bengal it is called chida. There is the famous story of the Chida Dahi festival that was done in Bengal by the followers of Krishna Chaitanya. They just got a lot of this flat rice and they put all sorts of yogurt and milk and banana and mango, and everybody was enjoying. Okay, so but one who is not a dvija is not supposed to cook, or at least the food that is cooked by shudras is not to be consumed by the dvijas. So this means no dvija should go to the restaurant unless it's a restaurant where a qualified brahmana is cooking, but it's not really happening. Okay, then we go to verse number 2. O son of Pandu, you should know that what is called sannyasa, renunciation, is actually yoga, because no one can ever become a yogi without giving up all expectations. This is interesting. Any questions about this verse?
No.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, it's we have to understand what is the meaning of giving up all expectations. Of course, we expect that if we work in a specific manner, we will get some results. Like if we put all our energy, sufficient energy, in the action, the result will be better. This expectation is okay. The problem is that when the expectation is based on ahankara and mamatva. So that type of expectation we should give up. So let's go on. No questions. Okay. 3, verse 3. For a Muni who has just begun the practice of yoga, activity is said to be the means. For one who has ascended the staircase of yoga, equanimity is said to be the means. Okay, we are talking here of the Yoga Rudha, the staircase of yoga. This means that the sadhana changes. The sadhana must be adjusted to time, place, and person, and not only person, also level of development, level of progress, because the same person will have different stages of personal evolution where the sadhana needs to be personalized and adjusted. This is why the real guru is required, because the real guru actually knows the disciple, knows exactly where the disciple is, what he's doing, what are the problems, what are the realization of the disciples, what are the difficulties of the disciple, what is the situation specifically, what the disciple can do and what he cannot do, what is the potential of the disciple and to which degree the disciple has developed. Now, of course, when we have the guru superstars who have thousands and thousands of disciples and practically zero connection with them, it is a problem, because the guru becomes either merely the representative of the organization, and without any personal responsibility, personal liability, just gives the speech and goes away. Or becomes someone who is not even expected to have any relationship with the disciples and followers. So just a figurehead that is worshipped like God, as if the guru is omniscient, omnipotent, but it's very easy to see that, to verify that by simply, if the disciple goes in front of these guru superstars and asks, what is my name? Most of these gurus don't even know the names of the disciples, what to speak of the level of their realizations. So in the end, the disciples become just the disciples of the organization, not the disciples of the guru. And this is impersonalistic approach, because the organization is not made of persons. The organization is impersonal. Anyway, in the beginning of the practice of yoga, the most important thing is the mauna. Why here Krishna uses the word Muni. For a Muni who has just begun the practice of yoga. The mauna means to be silent. Observe silence, control the speech and control the mind. This is the first requirement of the sadhana. We need to actually engage in the activity, means the sadhana, without being confused by the distractions presented by the mind. The mind is constantly talking. many people get so used that when they find themselves in silence, they panic. So they need to put some music. They need to go out and mix with people. They need to constantly have this chattering going on. But the first step in the sadhana is to be still and make the mind quiet. That doesn't mean that we should not use the mind. That is tamas. We need to control the mind in a sattvic manner by moving from rajas to sattva. When we stop using the mind in a stupid way, we are going from rajas to tamas. If we stop the mind in an intelligent way, we are going from rajas to sattva. Sattva still goes on with activities, both mental and physical, but they are focused, controlled activities. Now, after a sufficient work in sadhana, the mind becomes so accustomed to focusing on the Atma, on the spiritual level. And usually this is done through the practice of the mantra. By repeating the mantra, by meditating on the form of God with dharana and dhyana, we actually install the form of God, the name of God, the form of God in our mind. So we achieve what is called raganuga bhakti. Sadhana bhakti requires some specific concentration effort. Raganuga bhakti is when the meditation on God has become so normal, so deeply rooted in the mind that the memory of God and the name of God and the qualities of God, the teachings of God, is there even if we don't make any effort. So in this case, we are not doing so much activity by consciously focusing the mind on something, but we become transcendental in the sense that whatever comes, we accept it as a blessing from God. So we engage in the required activity that under the direct guidance of God, the Paramatma, Antaryami, who is constantly with us. Paramatma Antaryami is always inside the heart of every one of us, even if we are not aware of this presence. Now, the passage from the sadhana bhakti to the raganuga bhakti is when we, through the practice of looking at the Paramatma, we become completely aware of the presence of the Paramatma. So we don't need to look for the Paramatma because it's very visible. We are spontaneously looking at Paramatma. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this tell.
No, no, nothing. It was unmute,
Nothing.
so
Okay.
we might.
In this situation, equanimity, sama, means is equal disposition to all types of activities. So whatever comes, we are always able to see how this thing that has come on, in front of us, can be engaged, can be used in the service of God, in the sacred activity. So that's the means. We continue to work, we continue to act. It's not that we don't do anything, but we are not making a particular effort to find out what we should do. What we should do comes, clearly to us in a self-effulgent manner. We can see it because there are no more obstacles. The obstacles are all the material conditionings, the considerations of ahankara and mamatva. Once ahankara and mamatva have been washed away, the view is very clear. Okay, so we continue with the verse 4. Anytime you can stop me, yeah? Okay, verse 4.
So,
Indeed, when one does not become attached to the objects of the senses or to the activities and renounces all expectations, he is said to be advanced in yoga. So, yoga is not about doing gymnastics, losing weight, and looking good. So, it's about not being attached to the objects of the senses or to the activities. The object of the senses is also one's body, because we perceive our own body, and the whatever activities of the body, which goes under, everything here goes under the labels of ahankara and mamatva. So if there is no attachment to the object of the senses or the activities, we are clearly seeing the purpose of all the activities and all the objects of the senses. This doesn't mean that we do not engage the senses in the sense objects or in the activities. It means we are not attached. Krishna will explain very clearly that the Sthita Prajna is very aware, very conscious that whatever activities the body is doing, it's just done by the body. But the Atman is not conditioned by the activities of the senses and the objects. Is that clear?
yes.
Okay. Okay, if you have questions, please speak up, because the
Yeah, sure.
volume is not brilliant. Okay. Verse 5. One should raise himself by his own effort and not degrade himself. Certainly one could be one's own friend or one's own enemy. What is the Atman? Udaret Atmana Atmanam, by himself, the self. Of course, Krishna is talking about the mind here. Sometimes Atma in Gita is used to refer to the consciousness of the mind and of the body. But it's like when the devas are called Amara, means immortal. They're not really immortal, because they live much longer than human beings, but they're not immortal. So here, elevating oneself by one's own effort and being one's own best friend is referred to the mind. So the mind can be its own best friend. Our best friend or our worst enemy, depending. If we control the mind, then the mind becomes our best friend. It is said that the mind is a very good servant, but a terrible master. It's a fact, because the mind is not qualified to actually understand things that are beyond the mind. And definitely the Atman Brahman is definitely beyond the mind. That is why it's called Achintya, inconceivable. Okay. So the mind must serve the Atman Brahman by being controlled and by being engaged in the service to the universal community, the body of God. Okay. We have verse 6. One is his own friend when he has conquered oneself, but one who is not self-controlled behaves as his own enemy. And this we have seen so many times. Because whatever other people do against us is never as damaging as what we ourselves do to ourselves. We cannot control what other people do or what the circumstances are, but we definitely can control our response, our behavior. So that's the first priority of yoga. Seven, the Paramatman manifests to one who has controlled himself and has attained peace in heat or cold, in happiness and in distress, and in honor and dishonor. This means that all these problems, like heat and cold, happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, adoration and spite, these are all relative to the mind, to the ahankara and the mamatra. All these considerations are blocking our view and our hearing of the Paramatma. The Paramatma is always talking to us, but if our hearing ability is covered by ahankara mamatra, we cannot access the Paramatma. We cannot see the manifestation. We cannot hear it. 8. A person, tell.
I got dropped off in between.
Huh?
No, I got dropped off for maybe 20-30 seconds. It rejoined automatically.
You got?
I got dropped off from this call as due to poor network.
There was the connection froze.
Network. Yeah.
Well.
But maybe like for 30-40 seconds only, not much.
Ouch. But anyway, it will be there in the video.
Yeah.
Sorry. I am also trying to change the internet connection. But what to do? Anyway, but you understand the verse 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Then verse 8. A person who finds satisfaction in the theory and practice of knowledge remains stable and unmoved because he has controlled his senses. This person is connected with the Supreme and is called a yogi. He is impartial to clay, stone, and gold. This is because all these three elements can be used in a proper manner in the service of God. So clay can be used to do some things, stone can be used to do some other things, and gold can be used to do other things. We don't despise clay, we don't covet gold, because gold should not be used for everything. And the same way, clay has limitations. Each one of these elements, just like each one of the objects that we find around ourselves, will have a particular appropriate value in the practical application of use, of service. So this is important because this is the actual focus. What can we do with clay, stone, or gold? It's not that we just want to possess them, or we think that one is better than the other. This applies also to people. There are different types of people according to their personal evolution, and each person can be engaged properly in the service of the universal community. So when Gita says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha, means that the Pandita are able to see that everything has value. It just has to be engaged in a specific manner. So, equanimity, being impartiality. Impartiality is not stupidity. One is impartial, that doesn't mean that he cannot see the differences. But the attitude is positive in all cases. So, whatever life puts in front of you, you can do something good with it. This is the famous saying in the West: when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. That's the wise way to live in this world. We have to be impartial to whatever comes. We can always do something good with it. Another famous saying, I don't know how true it is because I don't know Chinese or Japanese, but they say that the same ideogram for problem also means opportunity. So every problem is an opportunity. And when we understand this, it means we are impartial. We have a sense, we see with equal positive attitude everything that comes our way. And this is a great secret, because in every situation we can do something good. That's the thing that we learn after many lifetimes. Bahunam janmanamante Yanamam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvam iti. So Mahatma Sudurlabha. So the Jnani, after many lifetimes comes to understand that Vasudeva is everywhere. So whatever is coming his way, it has been sent by Vasudeva. It's this is why in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will say, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Nakankshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. If we want to actually attain the bhakti, the real bhakti, not the sentimentalistic, prakrita sahajya, bigoted, devotion, but we want to actually get into the real bhakti, we need to be situated on the Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta means we have realized Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Vasudeva, what is the meaning of Vasudeva Sarvamiti? It means a Brahman, because Vasudeva as Bhagavan is not just that person, is not just limited to that body. Vasudeva is everything. When we understand that, then we can really understand Bhagavan as the foundation, the origin, and the resting place of everything. When Krishna said, Sutramani Ganaiva, like everything is resting on me, like pearls on a string. If we really understand the meaning, then we can say that we have realized Bhagavan. Otherwise, we think that Bhagavan is a regular, ordinary person, who lives on another planet, and or maybe at the best in a deity in the temple. This is the mentality of the Kanishadikari. It's already better than people who ask, how many children had Krishna, with Lakshmi. Like, okay. Or Vishnu, Vishnu. How many children Vishnu has? Already the Kanishadikari at least can see God in the deity, in the Murti, in the temple. But that's the Kanishta, the smallest realization, the lowest level of realization. So this is the point, so this is the actual yogi, so he finds satisfaction in the theory and practice of knowledge. Okay, so we go on. Nine. The highest yogi is one who is impartial, unprejudiced, towards a benefactor, a friend, an enemy, a neutral person, a mediator, an envious person, a relative, a good person, and a sinner. Sinner means papeshu, the bad people. Pap is different from the Western Abrahamic concept of sin. Papi is someone who commits negative actions deliberately. Someone who wants to create damage. That's pap. So this is the highest yogi. But impartial, again, doesn't mean that he doesn't see the difference in behavior. He just sees that all these different people are jivatmas, are parts of God, and must be engaged in God's service, because that's their natural, ideal position. So when he sees a benefactor, when the yogi sees a benefactor, he accepts the donations or the help or the service, whatever, the appreciation, the kindness, the whatever help he's getting from the benefactor. He's seeing the benefactor as an instrument of Krishna or God that is giving, is cooperating, is supporting his service. A friend is someone with whom he can share realizations. So, a friend will be engaged in the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Like Krishna will say, that my devotees are finding happiness in enlightening each other, talking about God, parasparam, tushanti cha ramanti cha. They find satisfaction and joy by sharing their realizations. An enemy is someone who is confused because not because we consider him an enemy, but because he thinks that he should be our enemy. There is this famous point in the Mahabharata that Yudhishthira was called Ajata Shatru, means someone whose enemy was never born. Nobody knows. There is no enemy for Yudhishthira, because Yudhishthira was very open-minded. He didn't consider anyone as an enemy. But that doesn't mean that when he was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he didn't fight back. Because the enemy is someone who is attacking us unprovoked. But the qualification, the condition of being enemy is not our problem, it's their problem, because they think they are our enemy, they must be our enemy. So they think that, like we see in the chapter 16, the Dayasura Sampada Yoga, the Asura thinks that whoever is an obstacle to his own power, control, selfish gain, or whatever, is an enemy. And this is a typical idea of the Asuras. So the devotee, the yogi, doesn't see anyone as enemy, but if someone comes to attack him, it doesn't mean that he's not going to fight back. Still, he will fight back, but will not swear revenge or, pursue the enemy after the enemy has surrendered. In the Kshatriya code, Dharmic code, when an enemy surrenders, the Kshatriya cannot fight anymore. When the enemy surrenders, the Kshatriya must treat the enemy as a friend. The basic concepts of a Kshatriya's training is dana, bheda, danda. If someone comes as an enemy, first they try to be nice to them. If it doesn't work, then they have to go to bheda. Bheda means difference, distance, separation. So it means both being, staying away from that person, and if that person insists and, tries to whip up support against you, you need to divide them. then the danda is the last resource. The last resort when a person, an aggressor, an atatai, the atatai na are the aggressors, so the atatai, it keeps coming against you, attacking you, then you can physically fight back. But first you have to try the other, systems. This means that you should not see the difference between a friend and an enemy as an ontological fact or a birth, identification. A neutral person can be someone who just doesn't care, who is not involved, or someone who has attained a higher level of consciousness by which he is not attached, he is not selfish, has no ego, no ahankara, no mamata, so that's also okay. A mediator is someone who is trying to bring harmony, peace, and cooperation. An envious person, it's again, can be someone who's considering himself an enemy or not, but in general. A relative, this is again identification with the body. A good person or a bad person. Well, everybody has some good parts and everybody has some bad parts. So this is the general meaning of this verse, and it's the same meaning of the Manusya Panchaka, the 5 verses that Adi Shankar wrote famously after his encounter with the Shiva in the form of a Chandala. Probably, I don't know if you know the story, but Adi Shankar is paying his respects and accepting this Chandala as his guru, because the Chandala was saying, what is the difference? Is there a difference between my Atman and your Atman? It's all Atman Brahman. And what is the difference between bodies? Your body is made of the same material elements as my body is. So here, the yogi is impartial, unprejudiced, because he sees that all beings are Atman Brahman. In all beings there is a Paramatma sitting there. And, recognizes the presence of the Paramatma in that body, together with the Atman. And he sees that all the bodies are made of the same elements. So, a Chandala is someone who doesn't take a bath, doesn't observe the, cleanliness rules. But if a Brahmana stops taking a bath, and doesn't observe the cleanliness rules, how is it different from the Chandala? There's no difference. So the only difference is the behavior. The only difference is the choices that are manifested by each particular individual. Is that everything is clear there?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. Do you have questions?
Any of the topics from today, we have discussed earlier on different.
Definitely. Gita keeps going. But, the main point is the same.
Yeah.
This is not. And also, why Gita is so simple, in a sense, it's so simple. Because the concepts of the Gita are really, elementary concepts. And that's sufficient. We don't need to go to, like Adi Shankar said, what is the need of so many scriptures? Gita is already sufficient. Okay, So we stop here on verse 10 for today,
Okay.
and we continue next time.
Sure.
Anything else? Not particularly.
No, nothing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jai Jagannath.